Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let's begin in a place of quiet. Perhaps you're here carrying the weight of a word, something someone said that you can't seem to put down. A criticism that replays in your mind's quiet hours, or a praise that felt sweet for a moment, then left you strangely emptier than before. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal. A signal that you have been trying to find your footing on ground that moves with other people's opinions. Tonight, we will not seek temporary shelter from these winds. We will build, together, an inner structure that stands unmoved, not through force, but through profound understanding. We will explore timeless wisdom, not as abstract philosophy, but as a lived experience of freedom. A freedom where praise is a gentle note in a symphony, not the conductor. Where criticism is a passing cloud in a vast sky, not the weather itself. So, find your comfort. Let your body settle. Feel the support beneath you. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve. Just be here, listening. And if these words resonate, if this sanctuary feels like a space you wish to return to, consider gently subscribing to Monk's Temple. It is simply a way to keep this door open for you. Now, let your next breath be a soft release of the day. Inhale, and exhale the need to be any particular way. Just be. There is a story I heard long ago, from a friend who traveled through the high deserts. He met a man who made his living carving intricate designs into dried gourds. His work was exquisite, sought after by collectors. My friend asked him his secret. The man held up a gourd, its surface a complex landscape of stars and desert flowers. The secret, he said, is not in the carving. It is in the listening. You see, a gourd is not silent. It holds the memory of every rain that fed its vine, every wind that rocked it, the heat of the sun that hardened its skin. If you carve without listening, you fight the gourd. You impose your will. The design will be rigid, and the gourd may crack. But if you sit with it first, and listen, you begin to hear its own story. Your knife then simply follows the story that is already there, waiting to be revealed. The art is in the cooperation, not the conquest. This is our starting point. The unshakable peace we seek is not something we carve violently into ourselves, fighting our nature. It is a story already within us, waiting to be heard and cooperated with. So often, we approach our inner life like a conqueror. We hear a criticism and think, I must carve that flaw out of me. We receive praise and think, I must carve more of this so I am loved. We are constantly carving ourselves to fit the images reflected in other people's eyes. It is exhausting, and it makes us fragile, like a gourd carved against its grain. The Buddha taught a fundamental truth. Dukkha, often translated as suffering or dissatisfaction, arises from tanha, a thirst, a craving. We thirst for pleasant feelings, for approval, for praise. We have an aversion to unpleasant feelings, to disapproval, to criticism. We are like someone dying of thirst in the ocean, because we keep drinking the salt water of external validation, hoping it will quench us, only to grow more desperately thirsty. Our thirst itself is the problem, not the water. So, the first step is to put down the carving knife of reactivity. To stop trying to sculpt ourselves into a shape that will earn love or avoid pain. Instead, we begin to listen. To listen to the life of this moment, just as it is. To feel the ache of a harsh word without immediately reaching for the knife to cut it out. To feel the flush of a compliment without immediately grabbing the knife to engrave it deeper. We simply listen to the sensations, the emotions, as they move through the vast space of our awareness. They are not the totality of who we are. They are weather patterns in the sky of our being. Let me share an anecdote from my own early days in practice. I was terribly sensitive to criticism. A sideways glance could feel like a dagger. I confessed this to my teacher, expecting a technique, a mantra, a shield. He simply said, "Good. You have excellent hearing. Now, stop confusing the sound with the listener." He asked me to sit with him by an old, rusted bell that hung in the garden. He struck it once. A deep, resonant gong filled the air. "That is criticism," he said. We sat in silence as the sound vibrated, slowly fading. "Where did it go?" he asked. I shrugged. "It faded away." He nodded. "But what heard it? What is here now, listening to the silence after the bell?" In that moment, I glimpsed it. The sound was temporary. The listening presence was constant. I had been identifying with the sound, the harsh words, and not the silent, spacious awareness that heard them come and go. My suffering was my identification with the ringing bell, not the open sky that contained it. This is the core of the Buddhist path, awakening to the nature of our own experience. We suffer because we cling to the transient as if it were permanent. We believe the criticism defines us, solidifies us. We believe the praise secures us. But both are just sounds. Beautiful sounds, ugly sounds. They arise and pass away. The art of becoming unshakable is the art of becoming more and more identified with the sky-like awareness, and less with the ever-changing weather. Tonight, we are not learning to become statues, cold and unmoving. We are learning to become the sky, vast, receptive, allowing all weather to pass through without being destroyed by any of it. The sky does not argue with the storm. It does not cling to the rainbow. It holds both with equal spaciousness. This is our true nature. We have just forgotten. As you rest into this listening, I invite you to continue with me. There is more of this story to uncover, more ways to remember the sky that you are. Let's explore the mechanism of this thirst. Why do we crave the pleasant sound and recoil from the harsh one? It helps to understand the landscape of the mind as the Buddha described it. Imagine an ancient, intricate device, a kind of water wheel in a river. This water wheel is driven by the current of your experiences. Each bucket on the wheel is a desire, an aversion, a moment of grasping. The river is the constant flow of sensory and mental input, what you see, hear, think, and feel. When a pleasant sensation flows by, a compliment, a feeling of success. A bucket labeled craving dips into the river, scoops it up, and the wheel turns, powered by your effort to hold on to that water. When an unpleasant sensation flows by, a criticism, a feeling of lack, a bucket labeled aversion fights the current, trying to push the water away, and this struggle also turns the wheel. This turning, this constant, effortful grabbing and pushing, is the engine of our habitual suffering. It's exhausting. We are the ones turning the wheel, believing we must to survive. But what if you could step out of the river? Not by leaving life, but by understanding the river's nature. This is the path of wisdom. It begins with a simple, radical question: who is served by this turning? I remember a winter I spent in a small hermitage. The only water came from an old hand pump in the yard. On freezing mornings, you had to prime it with a little water you'd saved from the day before. One morning, I'd forgotten to save any. I pumped and pumped with all my strength, but only dry, aching creaks came from the well. I grew frustrated, then desperate. My mind started spinning. I'd be thirsty, I couldn't make tea, my day was ruined. I was furiously turning a water wheel with no water. Finally, exhausted, I stopped. I just sat on the frozen ground next to the pump. In the deep quiet that followed my struggle, I heard it, a faint, dripping echo deep in the well. A slow, steady plink. Plink, of water seeping back into the cistern. I hadn't allowed it the stillness to gather. My frantic effort was the very thing preventing the flow. I went inside, waited an hour, and when I returned, a single, easy stroke of the handle brought forth a cold, clear gush. Our minds are often like that. We pump frantically for validation, for the pleasant feeling, and push violently against the unpleasant. This frantic effort drains the well of our own peace. The practice is to stop pumping. To sit quietly beside the well of your own heart and listen for the subtle, gathering drip of inherent wisdom. This is not passivity. It is intelligent cessation. You stop fueling the machine of reactivity. The Buddha called this machine the asavas, the outflows or fermentations. They are the habits of seeking satisfaction from the wrong sources. The outflow of sense desire, the belief that peace comes from pleasant sounds, sights, tastes. The outflow of becoming. The desire to be a certain kind of person, the praised one, the successful one, the one above criticism. The outflow of ignorance, not seeing things as they truly are. When criticism comes, these outflows ferment. Desire for a better reputation bubbles up. The desire to become someone unhurt fights with reality. Ignorance clouds the view, making the criticism seem solid, permanent, and purely about you. The work is to bring the light of awareness to this fermentation process. To see the craving as it dips into the river. To see the aversion as it pushes. Just see it. This seeing itself is the beginning of freedom. It is the first drop of water seeping back into the well. So, let's practice this listening now. Bring to mind a recent moment where a word affected you. Perhaps a critique, or a compliment that left you wanting. Don't analyze the story of who said what or why. Just feel the physical sensation in your body that the memory evokes. A tightness in the chest. A flutter in the stomach. A warmth. Just feel it. Now, imagine that sensation is a sound, like a note played in a vast, empty hall. You are not the note. You are the hall. The hall doesn't grasp at beautiful notes or reject discordant ones. It holds the space for all sound to arise, resonate, and fade. Can you offer that same spaciousness to this sensation? Not to change it, but to allow it the space to simply be, and thus, to move through its natural life. This is the practice of stepping out of the river. It is the act of lowering the bucket and resting your arms. This path is a gentle undoing, a ceasing of the struggle that has defined so much of our inner life. It requires patience, for we have been turning the wheel for a long, long time. But the relief is immediate the moment you pause. In that pause, you taste the peace that was never missing, only obscured by your own effort. This is the foundation. Recognizing the machinery of craving and aversion, and discovering the profound peace that exists in the space between the impulses. From this still point, everything changes. Now, let's imagine you are walking through a dense forest at night. You have a small lantern, and its circle of light is your world, the ground at your feet, the next tree trunk, the immediate path. This is how we often live. Our awareness tightly focused on the small circle of our immediate concerns, our reactions, our self-image. A criticism appears in the circle, and it fills the entire world of your lantern light. It becomes the only tree, the only path. A praise appears, and it, too, becomes the entire universe of your attention. We are trapped in the small story of this flickering circle. But above you, unseen, is a moonless sky brimming with stars. The forest itself is part of a vast continent, with mountains, rivers, deserts, and other forests stretching beyond imagination. This is the broader reality. Your life, with its praises and criticisms, is not the tiny circle of lantern light. It is the vast, starry continent. The practice of wisdom is to occasionally blow out the lantern. To stand in the dark, let your eyes adjust, and look up. To remember the scale of things. The Buddha taught the principle of anicca, impermanence. Everything that arises, passes away. Every sound fades. Every feeling changes. Every thought dissolves. The harsh word that feels so solid, so defining, is already vanishing the moment it is heard, becoming a memory, then a faint echo, then nothing. The glowing compliment follows the same law. Our pain comes from taking something inherently fleeting and trying to build a permanent home on it. It's like building a house on a wave. We are forever bailing water, forever terrified of the inevitable collapse. I learned this not from a book, but from a river stone. I used to carry a smooth, gray stone in my pocket as a reminder. One day, sitting by a creek, I lost it. I felt a genuine pang of loss for this little object. I searched the shallows. After an hour, I sat back, defeated. And then I saw it. Not my stone, but 10,000 stones, all smoothed by the water, all beautiful in their own way. My attachment had blinded me to the whole creek. My focus on the one lost stone had caused suffering and hidden the abundant reality. My criticism, my prized possession, my failing, my achievement, they are all just single stones on the endless shore of experience. To be unshakable is to love the shore, not to cling to any one stone. Let me tell you a story about a tailor in a bustling city. He was famous for his meticulous work, but also for his terrible temper when a customer was displeased. A single critical word could ruin his week. One afternoon, a wealthy patron brought in a costly silk robe, torn by accident. "Make it perfect again," she demanded. "I must wear it tonight." The tailor, anxious under her gaze, worked with trembling hands. In his nervousness, he made a tiny, nearly invisible stitch out of place. He was horrified. Surely she would see it, and his reputation would be shattered. He imagined her scorn, the gossip, the end of his business. The criticism he anticipated filled his lantern light completely. Just then, an elderly monk who often begged on his street came in, seeking a patch for his own worn robe. The tailor, distracted and irritable, snipped a piece of plain cloth and handed it over. The monk sat quietly on the floor, watching him. "Your needle seems heavy," the monk said softly. "It is carrying a mountain." The tailor snapped, explaining his predicament with the silk. The monk listened, then asked, "What is the purpose of the robe?" "To be worn," said the tailor. And will it be worn? Yes, tonight. And after tonight? It will be placed in a closet, or worn again. The monk smiled. So the robe will live a long life of being worn, stored, perhaps torn again, mended again. And your stitch is one moment in that long life. Tell me, when you look at the night sky, does your eye rest on the single star that is slightly dimmer than the others, or do you see the magnificent sweep of the constellation? The tailor was silent. The monk continued, "You have made your imperfect stitch the only star in your sky. Blow out your lantern, tailor. See the constellation of your skill, your hands, your lifetime of beautiful work. This stitch is part of that constellation, not its destroyer." The patron returned. She put on the robe, twirled, declared it perfect, and left happily. The tailor never found the flawed stitch. But he found something far more valuable, the ability to see his life as a constellation, not a single star. After that, criticism became just another star in his sky, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, but never again the only light. This is the shift. From the lantern light to the starry sky. From the single stone to the whole shore. When you feel a criticism taking over your world, pause. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, imagine your awareness expanding, beyond the room, beyond the day's worry, to include the vast, enduring flow of your entire life, and life itself. The criticism becomes a small thing, held in a vast space. It loses its power to dominate. Your true self is not the small, frightened holder of the lantern. It is the aware, spacious continent under the stars. We forget this, and so we tremble. We remember, and so we are steadied. There is a profound practice in the Buddhist tradition known as metta, or loving kindness. It is often misunderstood as a simple exercise in generating warm, fuzzy feelings. In truth, it is a radical re-education of the heart, and a supreme method for disarming the power of external praise and blame. It begins, not with others, but with yourself. You cannot offer a stability you do not possess. You cannot truly be unmoved by others' opinions if your own opinion of yourself is a trembling, conditional thing. Imagine your own heart as a clear, deep spring in the woods. For years, perhaps, you have only approached this spring to check your reflection. Is it beautiful today? Acceptable? Flawed? You judge the water by the fleeting image it shows you, an image shaped by every passing cloud and leaf. This is living for the reflection. Metta is the practice of turning away from the surface and caring for the source. It is cleaning the spring of debris, protecting its flow, valuing the water for its life-giving essence, not for the imperfect, ever-changing picture it holds. The Buddha was unequivocal: you, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This is not self-indulgence. It is the fundamental repair of a broken relationship. Many of us harbor a quiet, relentless critic within, a voice that is the first to agree with external blame and the last to trust external praise. This internal critic is the crack in our foundation. Before we can handle the weather outside, we must repair the roof. Let me share a personal turning point. In my early training, I was given the task of tending a walled garden that had been neglected for seasons. It was overgrown with thorns, the soil was hard, and the few struggling plants were pale. My teacher said, "Your job is not to create a show garden for visitors. Your job is to fall in love with this piece of earth." I protested that it was ugly, a failure. He said, You are looking at the thorns and calling the earth a failure. The earth is not failing. It is simply growing what it can with the attention it has received. Give it different attention. So, I began. Not with grand designs, but with simple, devoted care. I cleared thorns not with hatred for them, but with care for the soil beneath. I watered not out of duty, but with a wish for the land to be nourished. I spoke to it, feeling foolish at first, with kindness. Slowly, over months, the garden transformed. Wildflowers I didn't plant appeared. The soil grew dark and rich. It became a place of deep, quiet beauty. One day, standing in that garden, I realized I had never tended the inner ground of my own heart with that same unconditional, patient devotion. I had only judged its current weeds. I began the metta practice in earnest, directing those same phrases first to myself: may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. At first, it felt hollow, like throwing seeds onto stone. But persistence is a gentle rain. Slowly, the inner ground softened. The internal critic's voice grew quieter, not because I fought it, but because I was no longer starving for its approval. I was being nourished from a deeper source. How does this relate to criticism and praise? When you have cultivated a genuine, unconditional friendship with yourself, external opinions lose their ultimate authority. If someone criticizes you, it is heard against a backdrop of your own fundamental self-regard. You can evaluate the critique from a place of strength, not fear. Is there truth here that can help me grow? Becomes a curious question, not a life or death verdict. If the critique is unfounded, it simply doesn't stick. It slides off the well-tended, resilient surface of your own compassion. Praise, too, is received differently. It is a lovely flower offered by a passerby. You appreciate its beauty, smell its fragrance, and let it go. You do not uproot it and try to desperately replant it in your garden, for your garden is already flourishing from its own source. The practice of metta builds an internal sanctuary. It is the well-tended garden within the walls of your being. No storm from outside can destroy its roots, for they are deep in the bedrock of your own unwavering care. You become like a great, ancient tree. The wind, of praise or blame, may rustle your leaves, but your stability is not in the leaves, it is in the deep, silent reaching of your roots into the earth of your own inherent worth. So tonight, before sleep, try this. Place a hand on your heart. Feel the simple, animal fact of your being alive. In that direct feeling, beneath all stories, whisper to yourself, may you be at peace. Do it not as a command, but as a wish, as you would wish for a dear friend. This is how you begin to clean the spring. This is how you stop living for the reflection and start honoring the source. Consider for a moment the nature of a mirror. Its sole function is to reflect what is placed before it with perfect, impersonal accuracy. It does not judge the beauty of the flower or the grimace of the pain. It does not cling to the image of gold nor reject the image of dust. It receives all, holds it for a moment, and releases all. The mirror remains unchanged, clear, and empty, ready for the next reflection. This is a powerful metaphor for the mind that has found equanimity, the mind that is unshaken. We, however, are not born as clear mirrors. We are born as clay tablets, and every experience, every word spoken to us, etches a groove. You are clever etches one line. You are clumsy, etches another. Over years, we become not a reflecting surface, but a tablet covered in deep, conflicting inscriptions. We then mistake these etched stories for our true face. When someone says something that aligns with a deep groove of, "I am not enough," the whole tablet resonates with a painful familiarity. When someone says something that aligns with a groove of, "I am special," we glow with the relief of the familiar, yet temporary, inscription. We are constantly being read from our own etched surface, by ourselves and others, and we believe the reading is the truth of us. The Buddhist path involves the profound work of smoothing the tablet. Not to become blank and unfeeling, but to return to our original nature as the mirror. The grooves of praise and blame are particularly deep. The practice is to notice when we are reacting from the groove, the familiar, conditioned response, and to instead rest as the mirror. To receive the image, the kind word, the harsh word, without letting it carve a new line or deepen an old one. I witnessed this mirror-like quality in an unexpected place, a vast, silent library of ancient manuscripts. The chief archivist was a woman of immense quiet. Scholars would come, some humble, some arrogantly certain of their theories. They would present their interpretations, sometimes with great flourish, sometimes with harsh criticism of others' work. She would listen, her face as still as the vellum pages she cared for. She never argued, never defended, never endorsed. When they finished, she would simply, gently, point them to other manuscripts, older commentaries, alternate translations they might have overlooked. Her guidance was never about being right or wrong, it was about providing a clearer reflection of the totality of the evidence. The arrogant would often leave humbled. The humble would leave enlightened. She was not defined by their arrogance or their gratitude. She was the clear space in which their ideas could be seen more completely. She was a living mirror. This is upekkha, equanimity. It is not cold detachment. It is the spacious, balanced calm that comes from no longer being hooked by the like and dislike of the etching process. It is the ability to be fully present with someone's anger without catching fire, and fully present with someone's adoration without becoming inflated. You remain useful, compassionate, and clear, because you are not busy defending or promoting the etched image of yourself. How do we smooth the tablet? We start with mindful awareness. When you feel the hot sting of criticism, pause. Instead of following the old groove into stories of defensiveness or worthlessness, turn your attention to the pure sensation itself. Where is it in the body? What is its texture, temperature, movement? See it as an image appearing in the mirror of your awareness. It is not the mirror. When you feel the warm glow of praise, do the same. Enjoy the pleasant sensation, but see it, too, as a passing image. By repeatedly disidentifying with the reflection and resting as the awareness that holds it, the old grooves gradually lose their depth. They become old patterns, not absolute truths. A story comes to mind of a famous potter who was said to make bowls so fine they rang like bells when struck. A rich merchant, seeking to flatter him, brought him a bag of gold and proclaimed, "You are the greatest potter alive. Your work is perfection." The potter nodded, said, "Thank you," and continued centering his clay. The next day, a jealous rival came and spat on a freshly fired pot, sneering, "Your work is clumsy and thick. You are a fraud." The potter looked at the ruined pot, nodded, said, "I see," and continued wedging his clay. His apprentice was bewildered. "Master, how can you be so unmoved? One called you a god, the other a fool." The potter handed the apprentice a lump of clay. "Feel this," he said. "What is its nature?" "It is cool, moist, malleable," said the apprentice. "And if I put gold dust on it, does it become gold?" "No, master. It is still clay." "And if I spit on it, does it become worthless?" "No. It is still clay." The potter smiled. "My worth was determined the day I understood my own nature, not the day someone put gold or spit upon it. I am the clay. I am the process. The rest is just weather on the field. Your nature is awareness itself, clear, capable of reflecting everything, changed by nothing. The praises and criticisms are gold dust and spit on the surface. They do not alter your fundamental substance. Your practice is to know yourself as the clay, as the mirror, not as the decoration or defilement upon it. From this knowing comes an unassailable peace. Let's talk about the stories we tell. Not the ones in books, but the silent, urgent narratives that run in the theater of your mind from the moment you wake. The I am stories. I am successful. I am failing. I am liked. I am an imposter. I am wise. I am foolish. These are the most potent fictions we possess, and we cling to them for dear life, because without them, who would we be? We fear the answer might be nothing. But the Buddha's radical insight points to a freedom found not in a better story, but in seeing the story itself as empty. Imagine you are in a boat on a wide river. The boat is your self-concept, your I am story. It feels solid. You have built it, painted it, named it. On one bank of the river grows the lush, beautiful forest of praise. On the opposite bank stretches the dark, thorny swamp of criticism. Your entire energy is spent rowing frantically toward the forest of praise, terrified of being swept into the swamp. It is exhausting, and no matter how hard you row, the current of life eventually pulls you near the thorns, and you must fight your way back. You believe your safety, your very existence, depends on this boat and its position on the river. Now, imagine you discover something. The boat has a hole in its bottom. Worse, it is made of paper. It was never seaworthy. This is the moment of insight, and it feels like terror. But then, you slip out of the boat. And you find the water is only waist deep. You can simply stand up. The riverbed is firm beneath your feet. You are not the paper boat. You are the one standing in the river. From this vantage point, you can appreciate the forest on one side without needing to live there forever. You can observe the swamp on the other without drowning in it. You are free to move, not by frantic rowing, but by walking with stability. The I am story was the paper boat. Letting it go feels like dissolution, but it is actually liberation into a vaster, truer ground of being. The Buddha taught anatta, often translated as not self. This is not a nihilistic denial of your existence. It is a practical invitation to investigate. Look at the things you call me or mine. Your body, which changes, your feelings, which come and go, your perceptions, your thoughts, your consciousness. Can you find any single element that is permanent, unchanging, and entirely under your control? The body ages. Feelings shift. Thoughts arise uninvited. None of these are a solid, eternal self. They are processes. When praise comes, it touches this temporary constellation of body and mind, creating a pleasant feeling. When criticism comes, it touches the same temporary constellation, creating an unpleasant one. Suffering arises when the constellation mistakes itself for a permanent captain, and takes the weather personally. I learned this from watching a master calligrapher. He would spend minutes in perfect stillness before a blank scroll. Then, in one fluid, fearless motion, his brush would sweep across the paper, creating a character of breathtaking beauty. I asked him how he could be so confident, with no chance for correction. "I am not making the character," he said. "The character is already there in the space. My job is to get myself, my trembling, doubting I, out of the way, so the brush can become the pathway for it to appear. If I think I am making great art, the brush hesitates. If I fear I am making a mess, the brush clots. When there is no I making or ruining, only the character and the space, then the hand is steady." His art was the practice of an état. The masterpiece appeared when the story of the artist dissolved into the doing. Apply this to your life. When you are praised, can you see it as a pleasant event happening within the field of your experience, not as a definition of the experiencer? Can you thank the person, appreciate the feeling, and let it pass, like a beautiful brushstroke that now exists on the scroll of your past? When you are criticized, can you see it as an unpleasant event within the same field, not as a verdict on the field itself? Can you investigate it for useful truth, and let the rest pass, like an errant ink splatter that does not ruin the whole scroll? You are not the paper boat of your self-story. You are the river and the one standing in it. You are not the calligrapher anxiously judging the stroke. You are the open space in which both beautiful characters and splatters appear and fade. This understanding is the ultimate ground for being unshakable. You are no longer defending a fragile fiction. You are resting in the profound, silent truth of what is. This takes practice. It begins by noticing the stories. He said that, which means I am. She praised me, so I am. See the story being written in real time. Then, gently, ask, is this thought permanent? Is this feeling who I am, or is it just a visitor? You don't need to fight the story. Just see it as a story. In that seeing, its power weakens. The paper boat begins to dissolve, and your feet find the solid riverbed. There is an old tale of two neighbors. One, a gardener, rose before dawn each day to tend his plot. He watered, weeded, and nurtured his plants with a patient hand. His garden was not spectacular, but it was resilient. When storms came, his plants bent but did not break, their roots were deep. The other neighbor craved a magnificent display. He bought the showiest, most exotic flowers and planted them with great fanfare. He poured expensive fertilizers on them and demanded rapid growth. His garden was briefly stunning, a riot of color that drew everyone's praise. But it needed constant, frantic care. When a hot wind blew, the plants wilted. When he forgot to water for a day, they suffered. His peace was hostage to their performance. Our inner life is like these gardens. We have a choice. We can be the impatient gardener, seeking the quick, dazzling bloom of external validation, the dramatic praise, the immediate ego boost. These blooms are spectacular but fragile, they wilt without constant attention and leave us anxious for the next. Or, we can be the patient gardener, tending to the roots, our integrity, our mindfulness, our compassion. This growth is slow and often unseen. No one praises a root. But it creates a strength that endures all seasons. When the hot wind of criticism blows, the plant of your peace may sway, but it will not uproot, because its sustenance comes from within, not from the fleeting weather of opinion. The Buddha's path is one of bhavana, cultivation, development. We are cultivating the root system of noble qualities, generosity, virtue, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom. Each time you choose to act with integrity when no one is watching, you water the root of virtue. Each time you sit with a difficult emotion instead of reacting, you deepen the root of patience. Each time you see the impersonal nature of a harsh word, you nourish the root of wisdom. This work is quiet, unglamorous, and utterly transformative. It builds what the texts call a jatasanti, inner peace. This peace is not an absence of noise, it is the presence of an unshakable foundation. I recall a man who ran a small ferry across a wide, slow river. His job was to ply back and forth, day in, day out, in all weather. Some passengers were grateful and tipped him well. Others were rude, complained about the slow pace, or accused him of overcharging. I once asked him how he stayed so even-tempered. He pointed to the riverbed, visible through the clear water. "You see those stones?" he said. "They have been here longer than the oldest tree on the bank. The water flows over them. Some days it's gentle, some days it's a raging flood after a storm. The water brings leaves, mud, sometimes broken branches. It clings to the stones for a moment, then moves on. The stones are not the leaves, nor the mud, nor the force of the water. They are just stones, resting in their place. My job is not to be the water, or the passengers who are like leaves on the water. My job is to be the stone. To do my work, to stay where I am put, and to let the rest flow by. The tips are pleasant leaves. The insults are muddy water. Neither changes the stone." He had cultivated the roots of equanimity so deeply that he had become the stone in the riverbed of his own life. His sense of worth and purpose was not floating on the surface of daily opinion, it was anchored in the deep, still place of his duty and his being. This is the fruit of patient gardening. It is available to anyone willing to tend to the roots. So, how do we start this cultivation in the face of praise and blame? We practice non-identification with the role. When someone praises you as the brilliant one, or criticizes you as the incompetent one, they are seeing a role, a temporary set of actions or outcomes. You can learn to bow politely to the role they see, without moving into the house they have built for you. Internally, you know, I am not the role of brilliant. That was a moment of clarity. I am not the role of incompetent. That was a moment of mistake. I am the awareness that witnessed both. You tend the root of wisdom by making this distinction. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, make one simple commitment to inner gardening. Perhaps it is this: before I react to a word of praise or criticism, I will take 3 breaths. In those 3 breaths, touch the root. Feel the solid ground of your body. Remember you are the stone, not the river. This tiny practice, repeated, is how empires of inner peace are built. Now, let us explore a hidden force that gives both praise and criticism their intoxicating, terrifying power, the hunger to be seen. This is a deep, ancient, and legitimate hunger. As social beings, we crave recognition, to know we matter, that we exist in the consciousness of another. This hunger is not wrong. But it becomes a source of bondage when we believe it can only be satisfied from the outside, when we become like empty bowls held out to the world, waiting for someone to fill them with the right words. Imagine a vast, silent cave deep within a mountain. In the very center of this cave stands a single, eternal flame. This flame is your essential awareness, your Buddha nature, pure, luminous, and complete. It requires no external fuel. However, the cave has many long, winding tunnels leading to the outside world. We spend most of our lives crawling out these tunnels, holding small, handheld mirrors up to the mouths of the tunnels, trying to catch reflections of sunlight, moonlight, the glow of others' torches. We call these reflections praise, love, respect. Sometimes we catch a beautiful glow and feel warm. Sometimes we catch only darkness or a distorted shadow and feel cold and afraid. We forget the immense, steady flame burning silently at our core, because we are so focused on the tiny, flickering reflections at the end of the tunnels. The practice is to turn around. To crawl back inward, away from the tunnel mouths, and to sit, awestruck, before your own primordial flame. To be warmed and illuminated by it. When you do this, a miraculous thing happens. You still see the lights and shadows at the tunnel mouths, but they are now just interesting patterns playing at the periphery. They are no longer your primary source of heat and light. You are already full. From this fullness, you can interact with the world. You can appreciate the sunlight, praise, without needing to bottle it for a dark day. You can observe the shadows, criticism, without fearing an eternal night. The Buddha taught that ignorance, avijja, of our true nature is the root of all suffering. The most painful ignorance is forgetting the inner flame. We believe we are the empty bowl, not the boundless well. We believe we are the beggar with a mirror, not the keeper of a sacred fire. I once met a woodcarver who lived alone in a pine forest. He made beautiful, simple bowls from burls of wood. He rarely sold them. People would trek to his cabin, drawn by rumors of his skill, and offer him great sums for his work. He would usually refuse. Perplexed, a visitor asked, "Why do you make these if not for acclaim or money? Don't you want to be known?" The carver picked up a half-finished bowl. "When I am carving," he said, "I am not a man making a bowl. I am the awareness of the grain meeting the knife. The bowl reveals itself. That is the intimacy. That is the being seen, by life itself. If I do it for someone else's eyes, I am no longer in that intimacy. I am back in the tunnel, looking for a reflection. The warmth is here," he said, tapping his heart, "in the meeting of my attention with the wood. Any praise after that is just an echo in a canyon. Pleasant, but distant." His words struck me. He had turned around in the tunnel. His being seen was the act of profound attention itself, a mutual recognition between his consciousness and the essence of the wood. External recognition was irrelevant. His hunger was satisfied at the source. How do we turn around? We practice turning attention upon the attendee. In moments of stillness, ask, who is it that hears this thought? Who is it that feels this craving for praise or fear of blame? Don't look for a philosophical answer. Feel into the space of the question itself. Sense the awareness that is reading these words. That is the flame. That is what you truly are. The more you familiarize yourself with this ground of being, the less you will need to scramble down tunnels for reflected light. When praise comes, let it be like a beautiful song echoing into your cave. Enjoy the melody. Thank the singer. But know the song is not the source of your warmth. When criticism comes, let it be like a harsh wind whistling at the tunnel mouth. Listen to its message if it carries useful information, but know the wind cannot extinguish your flame unless you carry it inside. You are not an empty bowl. You are the silent mountain containing the eternal fire. Your work is to remember, and to dwell there. We arrive now at a practical crossroads, the moment where wisdom meets the messy reality of daily life. Understanding is one thing, but how do you live this when the email arrives, the comment is made, the tone shifts in a conversation? The bridge between the mountain's stillness and the valley's storms is built with a single, potent material, sacred pause. Between the external stimulus, the word of praise or blame, and your internal reaction, there exists a sliver of space. For most, this space is infinitesimal, collapsed by habit. The critical word lands, and instantly, the story of hurt, defense, and identity launches like a pre-programmed rocket. The space is the doorway to freedom. Your practice is to find that doorway and widen it, just enough to step through. Imagine you are a master musician, and your mind is your instrument. Right now, the instrument is played by every passing breeze, every random noise. It is reactive, discordant. The practice of sacred pause is the act of gently taking the instrument into your own hands. Before you play a note in response to the world, you pause. You feel the weight of the instrument, the potential of the strings. In that pause, you reclaim your agency. You choose the next note. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, sati, are precisely this, the mental faculty of remembering to pause and attend. It is not about stopping thoughts, but about inserting a moment of pure, non-judgmental observation between the thought and you. In that observation, you are no longer the thought, you are the one aware of the thought. This changes everything. Let me tell you about a blacksmith I knew. His forge was a place of intense heat and instant decisions. A piece of iron, glowing orange, must be struck at the exact right moment. He told me his true skill was not in the hammer swing, but in the breath he took before the swing. In that breath, he said, I am not the angry man who argued with his wife this morning. I am not the proud man who won a prize last week. I am just the breath, the heat, and the metal. If I swing with anger in my arm, the metal cracks. If I swing with pride, I miss the angle. But if I swing from that breath, from the clear space, the metal sings and takes the perfect shape. His sacred pause was the breath before the hammer fell. In that pause, he shed the stories of his personal life and became pure response to the need of the moment. This is your practice. When the sting of criticism flares, or the giddy pull of praise tugs, do not swing the hammer of reaction immediately. Institute your pause. It can be one conscious breath. The simple act of feeling the air enter and leave your body. In that micro moment, several liberating things happen. 1. You separate from the raw sensation. You are now breathing with the sting, not just being the sting. 2. You create a gap in the habitual story. The tape of, "I am attacked," or "I am validated," momentarily stops. 3. You return to your body, the solid ground of present moment reality, not the mental movie of past or future. From this pause, you have choices. You can ask the blacksmith's question, "What is needed here?" Not, "What will defend me?" or "What will get me more?" But, "What is the skillful, compassionate, wise response?" Sometimes, the wise response is silence. Sometimes, it is a question. Sometimes, it is a grateful, "Thank you," that carries no clinging. Sometimes, it is a firm boundary. But now, it is a response, not a reaction. It comes from the clear space of the pause, not the storm of conditioned habit. The Buddhist path is filled with such pauses. The pause before speaking, right speech. The pause before acting, right action. The pause before latching onto a view, right view. Each pause is a mini enlightenment, a momentary stepping out of the river of samsara and onto the bank of freedom. So tonight, and tomorrow, practice the sacred pause. Start small. Commit to pausing for one full breath the next time your phone buzzes with a message, before you read it. Commit to pausing after someone speaks to you, before you reply. In that silence, inhabit the awareness that holds both the word and the breath. You are not eradicating criticism or praise from your life. You are changing the ground upon which they land. You are replacing quicksand with bedrock. From that bedrock, you can build a life of intention, not a life of reflex. We have journeyed together through the architecture of inner freedom, from listening to the Gourd story, to stepping out of the river of craving, to blowing out the lantern of narrow focus. We have smoothed the tablet of old grooves, tended the roots of a patient garden, and turned from the tunnel's reflections to sit before the inner flame. We have reclaimed the sacred pause. Now, we arrive at the simplest truth, the quiet harbor where all these streams meet. This is a practice of homecoming. The unshakability you seek is not a distant peak to be conquered. It is the ground beneath your feet, forgotten. It is the sky of your own awareness, overlooked because you have been captivated by the clouds. Praise and criticism are just two kinds of weather in that sky. Your practice is not to control the weather, but to remember you are the sky, spacious, unaffected, and inherently peaceful. The Buddha's final instruction before his passing was poignant: all conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. He was not issuing a grim warning, but offering a compass. All conditioned things includes every compliment, every insult, every triumph, every failure. They arise and pass. Your diligent striving is not to gather the impermanent, but to awaken to the permanent, the aware, compassionate presence that is your true nature. This is the ultimate refuge. Imagine a child building sandcastles on a vast, sunlit beach. One castle is decorated with sparkling praise. Another is knocked over by a wave of criticism. The child may laugh or cry at each event. But as the sun begins to set, the child looks up, tired from the building and the morning. She sees the infinite ocean, the endless sky, the steady horizon. She drops her bucket and shovel. She walks to the water's edge, not to build or fight, but simply to feel the cool water on her feet, to breathe the salty air. In that moment, she is not the builder or the victim. She is part of the boundless scene. She has come home to a perspective that includes everything and is troubled by nothing. You are that child. Your sandcastles are the roles, the achievements, the reputations. The ocean is your true nature, vast, deep, and capable of holding all forms before washing them clean. Your practice is to regularly look up from the sand, to feel the oceanic depth of your own being. So, as we close, carry no heavy teachings. Hold only this gentle invitation: when a word hooks you, pause, and look up. Feel the body breathing. Sense the space around you. Listen for the background silence beneath the noise of thought. In that instant, you are remembering. You are the sky noticing a cloud. You are the ocean feeling a wave. You are home. The path continues with your next breath, your next mindful step. You already have everything you need. May this understanding be a gentle, unwavering light within you. May you move through the world with the quiet confidence of one who knows where they truly live. Rest now, in that knowing. Welcome home.